Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and recently I got a druid up and running, having a lot of fun playing Feral and exploring Boomkin. Obviously, as a Night Fae, I feel like it just synergizes super well with the class. But with a brand new alt, now I have to gear the sucker, and I decided to go and explore some of the different opportunities you have for gearing for your character. In this video, I primarily want to make a guide for anyone looking to gear their character, maybe a brand new alt, or maybe finally get on their main. And you're trying to get enough gear to start getting into content. Start trying to find groups for normals and heroics. Maybe you will want to start progressing through mythic pluses for the first time. But first you need that sweet item level. And before you can get that sweet item level, you have to grind. And if you're doing this solo in particular, it's going to be quite tough. So in this video I have two of the best methods that I found for comes to gearing my character, especially brand new alts, with competitive gear to start. In this video we'll be talking about two methods that I found to be the easiest and the fastest, and primarily for those that are solo players. I'll be honest with a lot of you guys, I feel pretty lucky because I am in the guild that is progressing and is trying to be competitive within the PvE content. We do mythic pluses together, like we've gotten the mythic plus 15 mounts for a couple of our guildies, and probably going to get more for a lot more people at a later time. We're progressing through mythic boss fights, and for us, gearing as a group is important because you are as strong as the weakest link in the chain. So if someone is a DPS and they don't have the great of item level, we're not going to be able to progress to fights that have a DPS timer to it. Or healers that are underperforming when it comes to healing content and getting through boss checks, also going to be difficult. So as a group, it's so much easier to help each other gear. Carrying people through mythic pluses, helping them out through PvP to get 1800 for the fat weekly loot at the end of the weekly vault chest, as well as carrying people and getting them some gear funneled through raids is always going to be the fastest methods. But a lot of you guys don't have guilds, and I really think you should consider trying to get into some guilds, real guilds, not social cesspool guilds. Really consider trying to use the different websites like WoW Progress to apply to guilds and really apply yourself to go for further progression, especially if you want to do progression stuff in this expansion, pushing keys, doing raids. But if you want to have some easy stuff to use to gear your character out, these are the two best methods that I found for my alts. First method, and this is going to be something you can actually use to grind out your character, especially with in the next few weeks we'll be done with our campaign, all the chapters will be unlocked, is to do the campaign. Get renown for your character, whether it is through the emissaries or callings, whether it is through dungeon bosses, PvP, whichever method you use to get renown. Collecting renown will allow you to progress through your chapters. Your chapters for your Covenant will not only give you interesting storylines that you can see from different angles, especially if you have a lot of alts like Kyrian, Venthyr, Fae, you'll see different sides of the storyline of this expansion and kind of how they culminate into the one big overlay narrative. And you'll get to see some of the characters that have passed on into the Shadowlands. But also the rewards will give you gear. Gear is mostly cosmetic for at least my main, but for my alts this is actually usable gear. And it will end up getting capped out at 190-ish plus item level in literally a few weeks. And the final chapter will even give you a weapon, so that'll be a pretty good starter for any character, especially if you're a melee who's going to be swinging that weapon quite a lot. This gear can also be upgraded. So these pieces are going to start like 150 item level, the next piece is going to be 160-ish, the 170, the final piece is going to be 190 plus. I believe on beta it was like 197, 198-ish maybe. And the rest of the gear that you've gotten that's of lower item level can be upgraded with anima. So as your character, you'll be doing some of the different quest lines to get renown. One of them will be to collect anima, 1,000 for the week. And you can use that anima to upgrade your gear further. So at some point or another, your character should be able to walk around with 190-ish plus item level pieces of your Covenant suit of armor, whether it's cloth, leather, mail, or plate. This gear also has a benefit. If you're someone who actually wants to do more damage or more healing, it has tier sub bonuses. They're not going to be the strongest tier sub bonuses, but they are sizable. For a character with no gear, you'll actually have advantage over other players that are around 190 item level because you also have a tier sub bonus that in some senses can actually make you feel like more a 210 or 205 maybe item level character because of all the different bonuses, primarily being the primary stab bonuses. But it's huge. Tier sub bonuses generally provide you some sort of an advantage for your character. This is going to be gear that not only looks good, has the item level, but also has a tier as a bonus. This is gear that can be grinded in a single day if you want to. You can literally just grind out all the pieces, all the storyline chapters, and get a full set to toe in literally 2 weeks from now for making this video. You'll be able to grind through the whole thing, get a full head to toe set of armor, minus, you know, rings and necklaces, but quite a big bulk of your gear will be gotten quite easily from this Covenant campaign. The second way that I've been grinding gear for my alt, and actually done this today this week, and definitely look out for this week but also for next week, and that is Timewalking raids. Timewalking raids right now reward you 200 item level pieces of gear. That's basically Castle Nathria normal. However, Timewalking are a little different. Like a Timewalking raid in particular is really good right now. I wouldn't worry about dungeons. Dungeons give you slightly better item level than a Shadowlands dungeon normal. However, Shadowlands normal dungeons can actually give you legendaries and conduits. So if you're someone who actually wants to gear out, I would probably do Shadowlands dungeons instead of the Timewalking ones because, well, you can get other bonuses. Timewalking weeks also are not that good for gear from, let's say, the vendors from the Timewalking coins. Those used to give you really good pieces, but not as much anymore, and definitely not worth wasting your time into. However, the Timewalking raids are actually quite lucrative. First of all, it's all flex, so you can have a group of 10 men or 25 men, so it doesn't really matter how many people you have here. You can have as many people as you want to. So if you want to go with a smaller group, maybe some friends and a couple pugs, or open it up with a massive group, get a bunch of dudes that have a decent item level that can maybe carry, maybe a couple friends that want to run it to see the experience and the fights kind of scale down, you could totally do that as well. From our 25-man group, it seemed like every boss dropped about 8 pieces of gear, which is far more than what every single boss in Castle Nathria at about same group or similar group size drops. So it seems that Timewalking raids just drop you more gear. It was mostly a pug group, but we did have a couple of guildies in this pug group, and everybody who needed gear walked away with 2, 3, and even 4 pieces out of the full run. Your size of gear and, you know, the amount of gear that spits out for every single boss kill might vary depending on your group size, but they did seem to drop a lot more pieces than Castle Nathria bosses, which I found quite interesting. Second, this content is Timewalking squished. So everybody squished to level 30. That means gear gaps between best in slot pieces and like grabs you might have gotten at level 60 are a lot smaller. You still are going to have people in best in slot pieces doing a lot of damage inside of these raids, but the difference is going to be much smaller. So even someone who has a brand new character full of Azure gear, which by the way works inside of this raid, still has your Heart of Azeroth with essences, which also works inside of this raid, by the way, together with all your Covenant abilities too, so it's kind of an interesting combo. All those things still work to help benefit your character, and the difference between your damage and their damage is going to be not nearly as massive as it would be, again, if you were to go at level 60 to Castle Nathria. Lastly, all these raids are done in TBC and Wrath of Lich King era. Eras where raid mechanics were not nearly as complicated as they are now. Blizzard definitely has done some really cool and unique mechanics for all the raids, but I would say that some of the newer stuff with Legion, BFA, and with Shadowlands so far, they definitely are up in the ante and difficulty. I will just say this, I have more confidence in a random pug full of random item level players having an easier time inside of, let's say, Timewalking Ulduar than they would inside of a normal Castle Nathria, especially with all the different squishes for item levels and such, and with less mechanics, you know, maybe only 1 or 2 super important mechanics to pay attention to. I would imagine that a random pug would have a much easier time inside a Timewalking raid than they would in Castle Nathria. Next time you see Timewalking available on your calendar, which by that time you see this video might be a little late for some of you guys to get into a pug group, but next time you see it, I think it's definitely worth going in. Not only is it cool to see some of the fights, the mechanics are also much easier than it is for, you know, some of the new current content that are more big brain plays necessary, and the gear you get from it is actually quite good. And it can be done, I feel like, much easier in pugs, and I would trust pugs with this kind of content a lot more than with some of the newer stuff. I would say that this is actually quite a win-win situation, and with all the scaling going on down to level 30, not having the best in slot pieces, especially for a fresh new level 60 character, won't really keep you away from the content since it's all scaled down anyway. So it should be much easier for a lot of players to kind of get into the content and really give it a full true spin. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Good luck gearing your character and try to get into Timewalking if the time is available. I think there should be another Timewalking in 2 weeks for making this video, so just try to get into that if at all possible on any of your alts. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see all of you in the next one.